Hello, everyone. This is History Uncovered, our podcast, and today we will be talking about the Boys Who Challenged Hitler, Lud Peterson, and the Churchill Club. It's written by Philip Hoos. It's historical nonfiction, also action. Recommend the audience for the book, The Boys Who Challenged Hitler, Lud Peterson, and Churchill Club. I'd recommend for middle school and high school students, which is grade 6 to 12. History enthusiasts and just fans of true stories in general, as that book is mainly what it's centered around. And now we just basically discuss the book.
Okay. So I personally believe the book goes through the history, like Josiah said, all the way through the Holocaust.
Yep.
And all of that stuff. Like it. God, I'm stuttering now.
Nah, you're good.
It speaks about personal experiences and how the people went through, like what the people experienced during the Holocaust. I mean, the story tells a true story of a group of boys in Denmark led by Nud Peterson, who formed the Churchill Club to resist the Nazi occupation during World War II. The Churchill Club was basically like a group of saboteurs, if I think that's the word.
Yeah, saboteurs.
They were on a mission. They were on a mission to rid Denmark of the Nazi leadership.
Yep.
They risked their lives to fight back. Their courage and determination became a symbol of hope for the Danish people. And it reveals an inspiring story, shedding light on the power of resistance in times of war, no matter the age. The book, I personally believe the book was really good and a really good read for anybody who loves history and the Holocaust.
Yep. The next part, so, throughout the story, there were several key events, and I want to talk about 3 of 5. Wait, no. Actually, take that back. Josiah, you're going to talk about 3 of the 5 key details, and then I'll discuss 1, and then, wait, no, we can just discuss 2 together, yeah. So just pick 3, and you can just talk about those.
Alright, I'm going to now go over 3 of the key details, and Caleb's going to go over the other 2. One of the first key details that we picked out was the formation of the Churchill Club. You see, a group of daring teenagers which were led by Nud, how do you pronounce his name?
Nud Peterson.
Nud Peterson.
Yep.
Nud Peterson, okay. They were led by Nud Peterson, who formed the Churchill Club in defense of the Nazi occupation of Denmark. But the thing is, he didn't start with the Churchill Club. What happened was, first he was already part of a saboteurs group
The
where he used to live.
Or something.
Yeah, it was like the Wrath Club or something like that. And then what happened is he moved to Aalborg and he started the Churchill Club with school friends. And then basically during the whole book, they resisted the Germany forces and carried out multiple different sabotage missions. Yeah. For example, they blew up cars. And then they also did all of this despite them being quite young.
And also,
their story shows... their story shows the power of resistance amongst any age during dark periods. Then number 2 was the sabotage efforts. The Churchill Club carried out multiple acts of sabotage, as we said, such as bombing German trains and military targets. They risked their lives to halt Nazi operations and fight for the Danish people.
Yep.
Which demonstrates how brave they were, since nobody else wanted or even tried to do this.
Yeah.
Throughout the story.
Yeah, because hi, I'm Editor's Note. In World War II, there was actually more than just the Churchill Club in Denmark that were resistance efforts. Some other groups include the Wilsten Group, Holger Danske, the KOPA, the BOPA, and the Danish Freedom Council. All of these were groups that, similar to Churchill Club, resisted Nazi occupation in their own ways that would some were similar to the Churchill Club, some were different. Now obviously this video is focused on the Churchill Club, so I'm not going to dive into what exactly they did, but just wanted to provide more info on that yes, there were actually other groups besides the Churchill Club that were resistance efforts in Denmark. The Germans were seen as a very superior force in Denmark, and a lot of the people felt that not interfering with the German occupation and just letting them occupy would give them just almost like a better life in the future, as they believed, or because as Germany told them that Germany would treat Denmark as like the example.
It was
like an example country.
Protectorate.
Yeah, protectorate.
Or, yeah.
Germany promised to protect them as long as Denmark let them occupy and treated them as a superior.
Yeah, and because of that, nobody was willing to be brave enough and step out and say, hey, this is wrong.
Yeah.
We should be fighting for our freedom of our own country.
Yeah.
So it just shows how brave they were in extreme danger situations. Is there anything you were saying, Caleb?
No, you said, I was about to say what you said, but you got it.
All right, so number 3 is the dangers of the resistance, which was the group faced like constant threats from Nazis and collaborators within Denmark. Many people threatening to do bad actions to these people, which they didn't know who they were. All they knew was them by their logo, which was a blue swastika with like lightning.
Yeah, like arrows on it. Yeah.
And
I'll put a picture
like arrows on it.
screen.
And then also knew them by their name, which was the Churchill Club.
Yep.
So, but then as the stakes grew, the boys had to navigate more dangerous situations. For example, moving weapons and multiple different types of like bombs and stuff across different sections that were heavily guarded by Nazi forces.
Didn't they also talk about how they would redirect the signs so the people would go to different locations than they were supposed to?
Oh yeah, they also did that for sabotaging. They also like tried to mess up moving different types of ammunition, packages,
to send them somewhere else than what they were supposed to go.
And so it also showed how committed they were.
Yeah, absolutely.
In the risk of being captured, taken to wherever, in prison or other examples like that. And the tension and suspense throughout their efforts really make it quite a thrilling read, to be honest. At least from my opinion. I thought it was quite interesting to see the different types of sabotage that they committed to show how much they care for Denmark.
Yeah, because it definitely shows that as you go on and they do more dangerous tasks, it's definitely evident that this could definitely cost them their life. So the fact that they still continue to do it shows, as you said, their commitment and just their overall pride for their country to not back down to such a superior force.
Yeah,
and the story shows so many factors of nationalism and different things like that. Like, it's so like it's almost patriotic, is what they're like. It's acts of patriotism.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, and then we have the other two, and I want to talk about one. It's the teenage spirit of defiance. The Churchill Club members, they were very motivated by patriotism, care for their country and pride in their country, as well as to defy the Nazi occupation, as you learn very early on in the book that they were not fond of the Nazis and their customs, and definitely didn't want to have to follow it. So they saw that defying the Nazi occupation and going against it was a way of protecting their country, which is something I think is very important with their spirit and everything. And it's very interesting because they were at such a young age, but despite that, they were still capable to make a difference, which is very apparent in the story. It's very obvious that they fought for their country. They really cared about their country, and they didn't let what others had told them. Just like their parents had kind of told them, like, to stay indoors and not to go out because it was dangerous. And it actually had gotten to the point where, if I'm correct, their parents didn't know about it because these kids were sneaking out to fight for their country, and they didn't tell their parents because their parents, it's not so much they disagreed with their kids or they thought the Nazis were good, but they definitely knew it was a dangerous motive to go against the Nazis and didn't want their kids to be set up in such a dangerous situation, which is why the kids definitely didn't tell their parents. And their actions just show that, no matter how small or young you are, you can make a difference no matter the size of your opponent, which is just something you see throughout the story with the Churchill Club, said going against a Nazi occupation of their country, which had done nothing and gave in so quickly, which is not something they were proud of. They believed that their country should have kept fighting, and they wanted to make sure it did, which is why they did what they did, and that just shows their strong spirit and that they genuinely care for their country and they believe that what they were doing was right.
And I absolutely agree with going back to the part about the defiance and they're fighting for their country. They're fighting against what they call the Nazi war machine, and they're 6, 8 kids, something like that.
Yeah,
I can't remember exactly.
it was somewhere around there.
And there's 6 kids fighting against one of the biggest military powers in the world at that time.
Oh yeah.
And they made such a huge impact just in that small period of time they were active.
And actually, I want to touch on Carlson saying the impact, because the impact wasn't only in Denmark. It actually talks about in the book that the United States was having comics practically being published about the Churchill Club to just inspire that patriotism, and also it was almost used as a source of propaganda in a way, because it painting a picture of, once again, Nazis and Germany being a bad guy, and the Churchill Club comics published by, like, the United States painted Germany in that light, which also made it to where many more Americans as well despised Germany and didn't believe in their ideals. And Carlson's going to touch on number 5, Nuts Peterson, Leadership and Legacy, if you want to go ahead and do that.
The story centers Nud Peterson, whose leadership and determination guided the Churchill Club's actions. His reflections on the moral choices they faced, their sense of duty, and their belief in the righteousness of their actions. Given the story's depth and how they show the personal cost of their resistance, I mean, I truly believe Nud Peterson was a hero in Denmark.
Yeah, absolutely. And
definitely.
You can continue.
And I believe his legacy should live on forever around in Denmark and all across the world, showing how they were so determined that they went up against one of the biggest military powers in the world.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, 100%. Because he was seen, especially near after, like, their capture, and Denmark finally started rebelling against the Nazi occupation. Many people saw the Churchill Club as heroes, as, young boys, which was amazing to them, that someone so young would still defy the odds of such a giant war machine, like what Carlson said. And that inspired not only a lot of people in Denmark after they started rebelling, but also people across certain countries like America and Britain. And I 100% agree with Carlson on that.
Yeah, I also remember that I think toward the end, once they were captured and they were put into prison, they were hearing stories about how Britain used their story to help motivate them to help Denmark and all the other countries that had been captured under Germany's rule.
Yeah.
So, like, it made a large impact on tons of different people around the world.
Mm-hmm. And you know, I'm just gonna agree on that. And then the more you read it in the book, there's actually certain quotes that you will come across in a book that stand out to you. And I want us all to talk about a certain quote that we picked that stood out to us. And so
Okay.
I want to talk about one that I found. It's, "We mustn't oppose the giant. There are many German sympathizers on our faculty." This shows how strong Germany was, and how in Denmark, many people saw that it was better for them to surrender rather than side with Germany, as they say, rather than arouse the giant, which the giant being Germany, and go against them. They saw that Germany, which, you know, as it says, a giant, someone very strong. Is in that case, you know, giant would mean someone very powerful, strong, more dominant. And they saw Germany as someone that, since they are this more dominant and powerful country, it'd be better off to side with them rather than go against them. And that just shows how, I said, strong Germany was, and how many people in Denmark not only felt that Germany was too strong for them, but also shows how just so during the times of war, like World War II, how it was so easy for so many people to let fear take over and not go against and not rebel against something that they might have seen as wrong, which also paints a picture as to why the Churchill Club is so significant for igniting the hatred towards the Germans in Denmark, and the almost necessity that near the end of the war, many Germans or many Denmark citizens had felt they needed to rebel, which is, it just is very interesting, and that quote stood out to me. It just shows how people looked at Germany in Denmark and all around the world during the time. That's my quote. If you want, just I can go to do yours.
All right, I can do. I'll do my quote. So for my quote, I'm gonna have to pick, as Hitler put it, "He alone who gains the youth owns the future."
Mm-hmm.
And from this quote, we learn quite a lot about Hitler's whole plan, and how he doesn't want to just kind of, I wouldn't say brainwash, I would say influence the older generation. He wants to also influence the younger generations, the people that are growing up.
Yes.
Because if he can get them under his control, then it will make them believe in his ideals, in his idea of what a government and a world should be set up like, how it should be structured. And it kind of just shows his whole plan around his motivation, I would say. Like, what his motive is at the end of all of this is to influence and control the youth in the future generations.
Yeah. And that's a very good quote, because as I said, it shows how Hitler had put a lot of thought into this. Because Hitler had realized from very, I'd almost say early on in the war, that he had realized that in order for his for his Nazi occupation to keep going, not only would he have to win this war, but he have to make sure that he left a lasting impact on future generations, which is why he had stuff like the Hitler Youth, which basically brainwashed kids into thinking like a Nazi. And that quote is just very good at painting the picture of how Hitler knew that the best way for him to keep the Nazi occupation alive was to not only win the war, but to also make sure that future generations followed in the same footsteps. So that was a very good quote. I like that one. And Austin, if you want, you can go ahead and do one. You can just pick.
Alright. So the quote that really stood out to me was, "The occupation was on everyone's mind, but during those weeks, our teachers kept telling us not to talk about it. Don't object, don't mouth off." The quote really shows how the occupation changed life in Denmark drastically.
Yeah.
But yet many refuse to discuss it due to the possible dangers that lie with discussing it. As its inhabitants were Germans and Nazis, some were not willing to go against the Hitler Youth, the Nazis, all the different groups that they had at that time.
Yeah.
And it really shows how scared people were during that time of Hitler and the Nazis and all that, because they just showed up in their country one day and took over everything.
Yeah.
And they had no say in it at all.
Because they were terrified. They didn't want to have anything bad happen.
Speak out for themselves. They were horrified to do anything.
Yeah.
It was a horrible time.
They were scared that they could lose their lives, or that their family could die, or other things like that.
Oh yeah. And it also just shows how, as Carlson said, the whole Nazi occupation was very scaring to many people. But I think something else it also shows is how dominant Germany was. And so when it came to stuff like don't object, don't mouth off, it was almost a way of protecting yourself. Because this country was so strong, they were growing so rapidly, and many people had felt very fearful of your Nazis and even the Germans just because of what they were doing. So it showed how...
we had to...
It showed how life had changed so dramatically, but it also shows how people had felt that even discussing anything that may be anything negative or just anything in general with it could cost them money, their house, their life, and even make them lose it just because of how, as I said, dominant Germany was.
And going back to that dramatic change that you were just talking about, we have to take into account, they were living their normal lives, and one day Germany decided, I'm going to come in there, I'm going to take your country, and you're not going to do anything about it. They lost everything in a short span of time.
Yeah, absolutely. Because it talks about in the book that just the German, the Nazis and everything, they had moved in so quickly, and within such a short amount of time, their whole country was occupied by them. Which it's absolutely crazy to believe, but that's the honest truth. And I 100% agree with you on that.
And going back to the point of the war machine, what is a small country like Denmark and the Danish people going to do about such a huge world power?
Yeah.
As such as Germany.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's what a lot of people felt during this time, is they couldn't do anything, which is why I think a lot of people, and why Denmark itself sided with Germany so quickly. And also your people and your government of Denmark, your higher ups, I believe also some of it felt that, what Germany promised them as being an example country in a way, Germany had told him, hey, if we win this for you, you're going to be the country that everyone's going to look at, and you're going to be like, oh yeah, that's what an alien race country is supposed to look like. They're going to be an ideal country for all of them.
Yeah. So this is a little far-fetched, but think about it like the Red Scare. Communism sounded great in the beginning, the way it worked, and all that.
Yeah.
That's kind of the same idea that Hitler had. He wants it this way, and everything's going to be perfect. But people did not realize what came with him trying to make it perfect.
So, as we were talking about the Red Scale, I noticed that some of you may need to know what it is. So, I'm here to explain that. Red Scale is basically like a period in the United States where, people were afraid that communism would make its way over to the United States and, take over the country and the government. Now, to provide further information, the Red Scale resulted from the government of Russia, where, the Bolsheviks and radicals, like Carlson said, overthrew the Russian government, turning it into communism. Yeah. And then when that happened, basically a lot of people in the United States began to be afraid that communism makes its way over to the United States. And then people began to reject anyone who had different values than them, or like immigrants coming into the country. As I've already stated previously, you know, they just feel that communism would take over and make its way over to America. That's just what the red scale is. Just realize that some of you might not want to know that, or might not know what the red scale is, and probably would like to have context so it actually made more sense about the connection. And yeah, and I touch on communism, but I think I explained it pretty well. If you don't, and I get asked enough questions, I might leave a pinned comment about it. But yeah, so that's that. Just wanted to touch on that real quick. Yeah, and actually,
they didn't realize the repercussions or whatever it's called.
Repercussions. Yeah. Actually, I love that connection because Hitler at first, when he came into power, he was you know, he made all these speeches because, you know, there was still the Great Depression going on, and Hitler had basically told Germans that, you know, we're going through a bad time. It's absolutely awful what we're going through. But I'm going to rebuild your life. I'm going to rebuild your homes, your businesses. You're going to be able to afford stuff again.
I have watched that I have advocated for you in these years. I've spent my time in service of my people. Now cast your vote. If yes, then stand up for me as I have stood up for you.
And that's what he did. Because, you know, when he came to power, Germany was rebuilding. It was being very good compared to other countries who were still greatly suffering from the Depression, which the book actually discusses how like the if I'm correct, Nud's father, after they went to Germany, he actually got a swastika and like a swastika sticker, and when he got back to Denmark, they told him to take it off, but he had gotten that sticker because he was just so amazed with what Hitler had done with the place. And I 100% agree with you on that, and I love that connection.
Yeah, I mean, it's still, every time, history is going to repeat itself.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
But there's been so many examples of people coming in and making the country better, and then something happening and it just ruining the whole thing.
Yeah,
such as
absolutely.
Communism. Like the Bolsheviks came in, they took over Russia, they started communism, it sounded great, and then it ended badly.
Yeah. Because, you know, that's something we learned in history, about our amazing history teacher. The Nazis, yeah, like, written on paper, as he said, it looked amazing. But then you go in, and then you realize, you know, the government was corrupted from the very beginning. Because you look at it on paper, it's like, oh, you know, everyone's going to have, you know, fair share of property, everyone's going to have equal distribution of wealth, it's going to be amazing. But then you look at it, and it's like,
Absolutely.
well, the government's going to have all hands on their money, and are they going to spread it out amongst people? No, because the government wants the money. So it just shows how not only, I guess, corrupted the Nazis were, but corrupted other countries were, and how, as you said, history repeats itself, and you can link it into other sources like the Red Scale with Russia.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Said I had one more quote, but we went on a whole long. We went on a lot about that one, so we're gonna skip the last quote. We're gonna go. Oh yeah, just final thoughts on the book. Yeah. Okay.
Honestly, my final thoughts on the whole book is, it's a good book if you're really into, as Caleb already said, like, you're a history enthusiast or you love true stories that maybe have to do with history. Really depends on your preference.
Absolutely.
And it's a good historical book. It goes into what happened in Denmark.
Yeah.
In that it wasn't just a protectorate that the Nazis used as an example. There was a whole ton of rebellions and stuff going on inside of the country that probably wasn't surfaced to cause mass panic of people outside, or like more people wanting to rebel outside of the whole entire area that's controlled by Germany.
Yeah.
So I think that this kind of shines light to more stuff that happened during this time. That it wasn't just nobody tried to do anything. People were doing stuff. It's just it was small things, even big things that happened in the book. To just show how much that they care that this isn't a right thing, that it shouldn't happen.
Yeah. I'm going.
That's kind of my thoughts.
Yeah. So that I'm gonna agree with that. My final thoughts on the book. Like if I was to rate it, I'd get like a 3.5 out of 5 stars. The book is very fascinating. It's very good at like showing historical context of World War II and the Churchill Club. It's very interesting. It brings up a lot of facts that more than likely, unless you know everything about history, you probably don't know. The book also brings up certain points that you may not expect. You know, there's some things in the book that I was like, oh, I didn't see that coming. But the main issue of this book is it's rather slow. You know, like if you're someone who's going to open a book and expect to be action-packed at the very beginning, the book's not for you. The book's for someone who's going to take the time out of their day to be patient and read the book. Said it's a good book, but you have to give the book a chance, and you have to keep on reading it. Because the book itself, while good,
I agree with that.
Yes, because the book itself, while good, it starts off slow, and it feels repetitive. Because, you know, the Churchill Club, what did they mainly do? They went in, they disrupted the Nazi occupation by stealing weapons and bombing artillery and stuff like that. Well, while that's all fascinating and all, that also is a lot of what they did, so what does the book discuss a lot of the time? Exactly that.
A lot of the sabotage.
Exactly. And
yes, and I definitely agree with the slower pace, how it is. Yeah. But I really believe, like, I wasn't very interested in the beginning, but as I got to the end, it kind of fascinated me with the history, the facts,
absolutely.
The way, like, how it all came together with the history and all that.
Because it builds up over time. You get the book, and at first you're like, you know, this is, But then as you read it, you read more and more about those sabotages, and as long as you keep reading it and don't feel discouraged enough to stop reading it because of its repetitiveness, it gets good because there is a lot of good moments in the book that you either A, didn't see coming, or it's just a shocker. And then even after the books, just to read more about the life and the family itself is also very interesting. So, if you're, like, especially interested in World War II, the Holocaust, and if you're just an historical enthusiast, or if you're just very a patient reader, then this is a book you definitely would want to read, as it goes through something that is very, very fascinating, but you just have to be patient with it and not give up.
Yeah, you have to give it a chance to open up.
You have to let it ease in. You have to give it a chance.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely, I agree.
If you want, Carson, you can go and give your piece.
So the book, it kind of reminds me of like a young horse, you know, sometimes, or even a puppy. You know, they kind of come out ugly, a little bit. I mean, I'm not saying they're ugly, but they kind of come out funny looking, and they kind of bloom into something great, like something you're fascinated with, like.
So, oh boy. Okay. I'm sure as you just saw, my friend Carson mentioned mentioned the young horse, and somehow actually pretty well tied it into what we were talking about. but I was intrigued. I wanted to fully understand this, so I looked into young horses. They definitely do look funny, a little bit weird. Here's one on screen. Won't lie. You know, I'm not like an expert on horses, but I found that, so I mean, I guess he won't lie. That was a very I guess good connection, especially when you look at the horse and what he was talking about. It surprised me. Well, expecting that, but figured I'd touch on it. Just wanted to show you guys. I'm sure some of you guys may have looked it up, but you know, that's fine. Yeah. Alright, that's it. Enjoy.
I believe, I don't know, I'd probably give it a 3.5 on a scale out of 5. And that's just because of the history. I personally like a more action-packed than like thriller. But I love the history to the book. And I believe without the history, I mean, I'd probably rate it maybe a 3. But I loved the history to the book. And if you love history, this is your book. Like, this is the perfect book for you to read.
Absolutely.
Yeah, definitely, bro.
At first, I was not going to keep that in. But I'm sorry, but that horse and dog part is way too funny to exclude. I'm keeping that in. That is great. I love that.
Yeah, that was perfect.
I did
bro.
not see that coming. Oh. Yeah, well, I'm pretty sure that's it. We've hit practically everything we need to. Y'all are killing me.
I think we hit all the parts.
We've been talking for let's see how long. Almost 40 minutes.
45 minutes at least.
Y'all are killing me. Oh, God. I gotta edit this down to like 5 minutes. Good God.
No, you can leave it to at least. She'll be all right with 20 because we talked a lot and made a lot of great points.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we definitely added a lot of important stuff that like.
Yeah, we added a lot more than we needed to, but I'd say it was worth it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
absolutely.
it's like it deserves listening to.
So
it's worth it.
I guess we're gonna go ahead and wrap up the podcast. So thank you all for watching. I hope you learned something from this. And if you didn't, I hope you enjoyed us yap for 41 minutes. Hopefully the audio ain't that long. We'll see. But
And can I add one final? Can I add one
absolutely,
final? Or wait,
yeah.
you wrap up and then I wanna.
Okay, yeah.
Okay, I just wanna. You wrap up first.
Yeah. Okay. Just thank you for tuning in to History Uncovered. If this does good, I might do it again. I have no idea. That's if I can get Carlson back on a phone call. That's if I can get him to read another book. We'll see. But you know, you can go ahead and say what you wanted to, Josiah.
Alright, I just want to say, make sure to eat your dino chicken nuggets.
Well, that's my YouTube line. Did you have to include that?
Yes, I did.
Can you please give this like a 2016 YouTube outro and intro?
Oh, I got you.
That'd be so good. That'd be so good.
We're gonna do a Joe Rogan outro and intro with the little music. We're gonna do it.
We better get 1,000 on this thing.
We better.
Exactly. Come on. She has to. Like, first of all, we did a whole podcast.
We literally
like an actual podcast.
32 minutes. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. Well, is there any last things you want to say, Carlson?
Pretty much said all I can say. I'm tired.
Same.
Hey.
I still got schoolwork to do today.
I know. I got homework. I gotta feed all the animals.
40. Good God. 40 minutes. Jesus Christ. All right. Well, it's been nice talking to y'all. That's it.
Yeah,
We finished it up. I'll see y'all later.
Yep. I gotta go. I gotta feed horses and dogs a mess.
Yeah.
All right.
Well,
I gotta go do schoolwork
yeah.
or whatnot.
Well, y'all take care. Thank y'all for getting on. I'll see y'all later.
Yeah, no, it's no problem. See y'all.
See ya.
Bye-bye.